it is like 7:20 in the morning, and I have this free time before I have to go to work. So I was like, let me, go ahead and record this video and make this video. I wanted to talk about something that happened to me a few days ago. I had a experience with voices that like I haven't had in a long time. Like this recent period, like I rarely hear voices when I'm just like walking around fully awake. I usually only hear or see things when I'm in that state between wakefulness and being asleep, like that in between, middle ground somewhere. That's usually when like I'll hear, voices, or I'll like I'll see things, but with my eyes closed. Like I'll like see it, and the way that it occurs is like I know I'm not just like using my mind's eye to imagine something. Like I'm seeing, like it's like 3D in my head, like, so I know it's not, it's like a vision or hallucination, So it usually only happens when I'm falling asleep / waking up. I usually don't experience anything like right now, for instance, like when I'm fully awake and, it's the middle of the day and like I usually don't hear anything or see anything. But lately I've been hearing stuff, and I have and I spend most of my time at work, so it's been happening at work. I can't necessarily say that's the reason why. It's just that the voices that I've been hearing have been like, hateful voices, or they've been saying hateful things, like calling me out of my name, calling me like a curse word, or yeah, that's about it. Like calling me like a whore, or I'm trying to think what else in particular was said. I kind of don't care, because when I hear these voices, they sound like before I understood that I had a mental illness, I was under the impression that I was hearing people's thoughts, because the voices that I would hear mimics the sound of the voice of people around me. So I was under the impression that I was hearing people's thoughts. Like I would hear my boss's voice calling me a whore or stupid, or whatever. I would hear my coworker's voice say this. I would hear back when it first started, I would hear my professor's voice say, XYZ, that's how it, like, it's usually, almost never is it like, when I hear it and I'm wide awake, it's never a stranger's voice. It's someone who I'm familiar with. And usually it happens to where like, I'll be, obviously standing next to them or something like that, and they would say something to me out loud, like they would seriously speak to me, and then literally like right after they got done speaking, I would hear a voice that sounded just like their voice say like, whore, you whore, or there are other things that they say, but I promise I just can't think of anything right now, so that's why I just keep saying whore. But so my boss would be all like, oh yeah, like, yeah, we need to do this, we need to do that, out loud, and then I would hear immediately, the voice, like the mean thing or whatever. And that's been happening to me lately at work. And what happened was, when I was still very delusional and convinced that there was a group of Catholics like at the Vatican, with like super high, like super advanced technology, who were capable of like reading my mind, and who were reading my mind because of the college I went to, Spring Hill College, and because I was studying theology, and there's all sorts of conspiracy theories about secret groups and all that shit on a college campus, and I was convinced that there was one, and I wrote this essay, explaining that you don't need to be Catholic, but I also took it a step further. I said you don't need any religion, period, in order to, be in right standing with God. And I was like, oh, I really pissed them off. Like, when my professor handed me back that essay, like, I can see where he struggled with what grade to give me. You know what I mean? When he gave it to me, he said, you ever think about being a philosophy major, like, instead of a theology major, And he was like, oh no, just joking. We're glad to have you. And I'm like, I wrote that paper in one night. It was a 12-page paper that I wrote in one night while being high, and now I know, delusional. So you got what you got. But yeah, it was a, very disruptive paper. Like my teacher were arguing the points that I made in the paper in class. He let other professors read it, because they were arguing the points that I made in class. And I know that it's, easy. I'm not necessarily a reliable narrative, let me put it like that, because of my mental illness and drug use, but it was happening. I've always been very, I don't know how to put it. I've just learned to deal with my mental illness, especially since I went for so many years not believing that I even had one. Like, for instance, a lot of people, maybe not necessarily a lot of people, but some people who have my same diagnosis can't work because of what it's like having this diagnosis. But me, on the other hand, even after I've gotten my diagnosis, I've worked at the same job, even I've got promoted at the same job for over a year now. And I'm not like trying to brag or make anyone feel poorly because of something that's out of their control. Working is very difficult, but it is possible. And because of the way that I guess, compartmentalize my voices and my mood swings and my mood disorder in my head, I can still function. I can still tell you that my professors were talking shit about my paper during class. I can tell you that much. It was happening. I'm trying to remember, where I was going. That's like with making that particular point. So usually, I don't lately, like, I hadn't been really hearing anything while I'm like fully awake, but most recently I've been hearing stuff again while I'm fully awake, and it happens at work. It doesn't happen when I'm at home. Maybe that has to do because when I hear the mean comments, I have to remind myself, like, this is not me actually hearing the thoughts of this person, hearing their ill will towards me. And that can be, like, I have to understand, just because I'm not hearing someone's evil thoughts towards me doesn't mean that they don't have any towards me. It's like I said, I've learned how to compartmentalize my issues, and so I'm not, no, you can't convince me. I mean, come on, it's work, right? You can't convince me that all of my coworkers love the ground that I walk on and have no issue with me. I'm sure they do. But that doesn't mean that I'm hearing, like, mean things that they're thinking about me while, as we're interacting. So I have to separate the two. It's like, I don't convince myself that these are angels who love me, but I know that I'm not hearing their thoughts. So that's what I have to, remember as it's happening to me. I remember, like, this isn't, this, as it's happening to me, I don't allow the experience of an auditory hallucination make me delusional, which is what I did before. I allowed the experience of my auditory hallucinations to make me delusional, and it didn't help that I was uber Christian, and I have this faith that is supernatural, and that could fit my experiences into my auditory hallucinations. It could fit into my faith. That didn't help me not be delusional. But what I want to talk about in particular was what happened. My old hallucinations. Usually lately, whenever I would have an auditory hallucination during the day, it would be along the lines of horror, etc., so on. Something mean, something cruel, something like that. But I used to have auditory hallucinations that made me extremely delusional and convinced me that I was being watched by this group of Catholics because of my perspective about faith, and because of the things that I were learning in theology school, and because I had such great insight, and because I was a Black woman, and it was kind of gonna be a, what is it called? What do they call it? What do they call it? Like a diversity hire type thing. There's like another phrase for it, but it was gonna be like a diversity type thing. Like, yeah, not only, because like I said, there's a group of Catholics, so it's like, not only is she, a Black, but she's a woman, which will be a huge deal. I'm like, so anyways, so I was just delusional, and I thought they were, trying to see if I would be a suitable fit to work for or work under the Pope, literally, and so this is what I thought was happening to me. Okay. And so I would used to hear auditory hallucinations that fed into that delusion. So I would hear theology related hallucinations. I would hear hallucinations and have dreams and experience things related to theology, related to the kind of issues that I was debating in my head constantly. Hot topic theological debates were constantly happening in my head, trying to figure out where I stand, where we should stand, because I'm thinking, this is what this group, a secret group of Catholics, want from me. They want my perspective on these issues. And I'm like, if I figure this out and I think about it and I consider, their perspective and my perspective, and I come up with something, then they'll, give me my money. Because of course, with schizoaffective type disorders and delusions, someone always owes you some money, right? So I'm like, they'll give me my money because they owe me for all of these years of picking through my brain and getting all this information out of me. So I'm like, they owe me, especially like being like a poor woman, I was like, hello, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. You know what I mean? So, let me see what time it is, because I do have to go to work. Well, hopefully I can continue this video later, because I have to get ready for work now. But yeah, so when I come back, I'll tell you guys what happened to me recently that hasn't happened to me in a long time. Hey guys, so this is the part 2 of my video that is currently untitled. But yeah. So like I was saying, usually I don't, hear these negative auditory hallucinations while I'm wide awake. As a matter of fact, yesterday I didn't hear any. I had my usual disturbing dreams last night, but I didn't hear any auditory hallucinations during the day. I just woke up today and I came to record this video while my daughter was still asleep so that I wouldn't be disturbed, but she might wake up soon because it's after 9, so we'll see. But anyways, so like I was saying, I heard a auditory hallucination that I haven't heard in a long time. I heard one of the hallucinations that I used to hear when I was still very much delusional and feeling like there was that group of Catholics hunting me down, trying to have me help them basically, against my will, by reading my mind and making me think about theology all the time. And I like theology. I still do like theology. So but I feel like I had to do it, because I just wanted them to leave me alone. And I was trying to get them to leave me alone. So even though I like theology and I like thinking about these issues, I didn't want to think about it from a Catholic perspective. I didn't want to think about it based off of Catholic theology. I can't say Catholic perspective. I'm not Catholic. I've never been Catholic. But I didn't want to think about it based off of Catholic theology because I have studied Catholic theology. I didn't, because like I said, I wasn't Catholic and I didn't buy that. I didn't buy into that. But I was doing it like that because I felt like if I gave these people these answers, or even if I didn't have an answer, because sometimes it's just about discourse. So it's like if I gave these people content, something to work with, then they would leave me alone. You have to understand, part of my delusion was, like I said, these people were mind readers. So, and they were very, very wealthy. So not only were they, reading my mind and, exerting a level of control over me, but they were also working with the people around me. While I was delusional, I was under the impression that the people around me were in cahoots with this Catholic group. Most of the people around me knew what was happening to me, and they were in cahoots with this Catholic group. And the Catholic group had such an amount of power where they could make it happen. They could convince people for whatever reason to participate. And some people didn't need much convincing. Some people were just douchebags, and they would be all like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's not me. I don't give a fuck, So yeah, I was having a very difficult time. And because right now I'm thinking about the different things that happened that made me very, very much convinced that this was happening. And to this day, like some of the coincidence that happened, it still doesn't make sense to me. I'm still like, how, how, you know, like, how did you know to say that? Why did you say that when you said that? Like, let me give you an example. Okay, so one time, while I was in the middle of my delusion, I was very heavily in it, and I had quit my job at a Catholic women's clinic because I was like, I'm gonna start my own business. So I quit my job there, and I quit going to the local church that I was visiting because a member of the church was very, very rude and disrespectful to me, and I called her out on it. But like, she was like an old established member of the church, and so the church took her side, but she was wrong, and that little bitch. And so I was like, I'm not even going to that church anymore because church politics. I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. So I didn't go anymore. So I was watching church online. I was watching One Church LA in California. And this was before Pastor Torre ended up expanding into Denver with the Powder's house and all that stuff. This was before that happened. So this was like some years back. And they have this, she wasn't even like an official pastor yet, I don't think. But her name is Stephanie Ike. And I love hearing her preach. Even now, I still love hearing her preach. Even though I'm not where I used to be, I still love hearing her preach. And her name is Stephanie Ike. And she was preaching one day. Now, the night before, like I said, so I'm not working, I'm not going to church, I don't really have anyone helping me. So I didn't have much food in the house. And so like the night before, I had went on a diatribe, like a rant about rice. About, how rice by itself can be a meal, how you can have a little bit of rice, but when you cook it, it'll make a big bowl. Like, I'm a poet, I'm very poetic. So when I was having my episodes and like I might start writing or speaking, like I would just start speaking out loud to the Catholics who were watching me. Like, I would get tired of, just thinking. I would just start lecturing them and like telling them about themselves out loud. And so when I was doing that, I was like, y'all have me in here with barely any food, letting me go through this, but that's all right because I got rice. And I was just hyping up rice, okay? And it was like the day before Sunday. It must have been the day before Sunday because it might have been a day before, like Thursday or Wednesday, whenever they had their midweek service, because like I said, it was Stephanie Ike who came on to preach. So the next day after my rice rant, Stephanie Ike comes on, and guess what the fuck she starts preaching about? Rice. And she's saying the same thing I was saying, because I think she's from Nigeria. I know she's from Africa. I know she's from that continent. I don't know which country. I think it's Nigeria, but she was talking about how rice was a meal in and of itself, and how far you can make it stretch, and how filling it is. And I was like, really? What a coincidence. You know what I mean? So stuff like that would happen to me constantly, to where it got to the point where and I've heard other people talk about this. I heard a woman, her government name was Taryn Guy. She was a natural hair YouTuber. Now I think she was, her YouTube channel, she was going by like Asawet Ikowa, or I know the first name was Asawet. I can't think of the last name, but she had a spiritual journey. She locked her hair. Right now she's, you know, experimenting with her hair, but she's still very much in her spiritual journey. And she was saying how, like, in her spiritual journey, like, there comes a time in people's journey where they're trying to connect the dots. Like, everything has secret meanings. What does that mean? Oh, 11:11. You know, what does that mean? Oh, that's a sign. Oh, what are they saying on the radio? Like, it becomes like that. And I commented on her video because it was a live video, and I was like, that sounds like me when I'm having an episode, when I'm having a bipolar episode or a schizoaffective episode. That sounds like me. I'm like, how is all of this, what does all of this mean? And I spent years like, this means that, this means that. Oh, and then of course my freaking crazy ass disturbing dreams, like, oh, that's what that means, and this what this means, and so much time like that. And so it got to the point where I was searching for the connections and the meanings and pulling them out of thin air, you know, but there were definite weird coincidences that would happen, like I said, with the rice thing. And I'm like, it just further convinced me of what was happening to me, you know. But so when I was heavily into my delusion and stuff like that was happening to me, and I was looking for the connections everywhere, the voices that I would hear, the auditory hallucinations that I would have, would be related to my delusion. So it would be theology related. One time I did this thing on Facebook where I was having theological debates with myself. So I would post one comment from one perspective, and then I would post another comment from a different perspective. And me personally, I thought it was cool. I still think it's cool. I enjoyed doing it. It was super fun. But I remember what happened after I started doing my Facebook like that was I came outside one day and a random stranger walked by, and I heard her say, OMG, she's doing theology on Facebook. It's so cool. So my auditory hallucinations fed into my, like, I don't know if my delusion fed my auditory hallucinations or if my auditory hallucinations fed my delusion. Like, I don't know what's the chicken or what's the egg, but they were definitely together. And so one of the things that I would used to hear when I would go around certain people or do certain things that was maybe beneath me, not behave classy enough or proper enough, or if I would think something that was, because you have to understand, I used to, and this is related to what recently happened, that's why I'm telling you, but I used to struggle with my self-esteem and thinking that I was attractive. And so I used to be hungry for male attention. And so I wouldn't do anything all that bad, but I might, think something like, oh, I can tell he thinks I'm attractive, or, stuff like that. And if I thought like that, then I would hear an auditory hallucination kind of, being all like, kind of telling me in a mean way, you're better than that. You know what I mean? Like, that's beneath you. And so what happened to me just recently, and I struggle less with my self-confidence, less than I've ever have in my life. But I still have to break my old habits you know, because like I still don't know how to handle male attention. It's like I'm not hungry for it anymore. But now when I get it, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. So I was at work, and we had a company come in to do some work for us, and I got the impression that he was staring at my ass, because I was counting something and it required me to bend over, and he kept saying, like, his boss was all like, hey, I need you over here, I need you to come over here and do this work. And he was all like, oh no, I'm just fine, because he was behind me, and he was like, I'm just fine where I am. I got everything taken care of up here. And I didn't even turn around to look to see if he was staring at my eyes or anything. I just kept doing my job. I was like, I'm just gonna ignore him. So I just keep counting, and while I'm thinking that, and I'm just like doing my job, I hear the voice of his boss say, Pope, 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 like over and over and over again. Pope, 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 Pope. So I get done, and I'm like, now that's one I haven't heard in a long years. That's one that I haven't heard in a long time. You know, very clear, the topic, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I hear things and I'm all like, huh? Like, what? But when he said Pope, I knew exactly what the fuck he was talking about. I'm like, really? You know, I was like, why now? You know, that's what I was thinking. Why now? After all this time. Pope, 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 Pope. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we fucking go. And when I got home that night, like I say, you know, usually when I hear voices is when I'm falling asleep or waking up. So when I got home and usually there's not like a dialogue between me and the voices. It's just a voice, you know, that I hear and like visions, but that's it. So I got home that night and I was going to sleep. My eyes were closed. That's usually how it happens, sleeping with eyes closed. And I start thinking about what I heard. And immediately when I think about the man's boss's voice, the one who said Pope, I get a vision of the boss. And he's like holding up some kind of bag or something like that. And he looks very eager, like, yep, that was me, it happened. You know, like, yeah, like, go ahead and think about this. Like, it was like, I don't know how to describe my voices. Like, it's like, I want to say it's like, yes, we want you to think about this, but who the fuck is we? Do you know what I mean? But it was like encouragement to think about what had happened. And so I see that vision of him like all eager, like, And I was like, I'm trying to remember what I said. I was like, I was thinking in my head, like, what he said. And then I heard this voice, and the voice was all like, and, or, you know, like, what else did he say? Like, that was the implication, like, and I was like, and then there was also that, or, you know, whatever I was thinking. And then the voice was all like, well, I was just waiting for you to say that. And I was like, I don't like this voice. The voice wasn't saying anything rude like all the other voices, like, oh, you know, whore, bitch, blah, 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 slut, yeah. But this voice has an arrogance about him. And again, it made me think of the type of auditory hallucinations and dreams that I had years ago, where, now my AC is on, where there was someone who had a lot of power and authority, and they weren't sorry about what they were doing to me. And they were kind of arrogant in that, like the way they spoke to me, like I was journaling about it, and the way I described the voice was in a biblical phrase. I was like, he spoke as if he had authority, like as if he had authority over me. Like, yeah, well, and I'm trying not to add a tone that wasn't there, but he was like, yeah, well, I was just waiting for you to say that. And it's like the phrase, you know what I mean? It's like, well, who the hell are you? What do you mean? You were just waiting for me to say that. Like, what? Huh? Like you my daddy or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not your job to hold me accountable, like, especially, like, these are my thoughts. And it was like, well, I was just waiting for you to acknowledge that as well. And it's like, I can think whatever the hell I want. And so, but what it made me think about was, because when I was heavily delusional, I thought that I heard the voice of God and his angels. I understood that not every voice, of course, was God or his angels, but I just jumped because my laptop went off. But let me make sure this is still recording. Yeah, it is. Okay. I understood that not every voice was God. Believe me, I understood that. But some of the voices, and it made me think of the voice that I heard, like this incident happened like a few weeks ago, I think, like a week or two ago. Yeah, like last week. It made me think of my God voice, where it's like, who talks to me like that? You know what I mean? With authority, but without cruelty. So peacefully, who actually talks back to me? Because most of the time, the voices, they are not sophisticated in such a way to where my hallucinations, there is no back and forth. It's just them saying something, and then that's it. They say something, I think something in response to it, and that's it. There is no response back to whatever the hell I just thought off the cuff. You understand? They're not that sophisticated. So for this voice to go back and forth with me is I can only qualify it as one of my God voices. That's my experience with my voices. And I've been doing research about how other people's experience work with their voices. Like, is there a back and forth? Is there a dialogue? Is there a conversation? I know, for instance, children with their imaginary friends, I imagine there's a conversation there. But it also, and that's something that's one of the research things that I researched brought up, like how children have imaginary friends. And, some of them, they're having these imaginary friends because they're hearing a voice. And darn it. But one of the things that I saw, and I've heard this from several different sources, but I have yet to read the article, is that the experience of negative auditory hallucinations is very much a North American occurrence. In other parts of the country, when people have auditory hallucinations, they're very much positive. And these people feel like it's, like God, God's positive spirits, positive affirmations that they're getting, positive interference into their lives, something that helps them. Whereas there being negativity is a very much North American thing. And if I, just dip my toe back into where my head was at when I was, delusional, hallucination, and very much Christian, it makes me think of all of the evil that has happened in North America. And you're all like, the world is an old place. Evil has happened everywhere. Yes, but I'm talking about the evil perpetrated specifically by the United States, and how as the world gets older, as people get older, evil gets more sinister and more creative. And so again, the level of evil happening here is unparalleled. And so it would be easy for someone who thought how I thought to think that the reason why there's so many negative auditory hallucinations here in America is because there are demonic principalities over this land. And it's like Daniel, where he had his answer. Oh, is it Daniel? It's like that guy who was praying, where he had his answer from God. God sent the angel, but the angel had to wrestle with a demonic principality before he can deliver God's answer to this man. You know what I mean? And so that's just what I think. I'm like, but that's the old me. The new me think all of it is fake. All of it is in my head. I'm crazy. But like I said, I'm still doing research to see, how other people's voices work and what they make of it. Because yes, I hear voices. However, I don't necessarily, sorry, you guys, someone's car is going off. And this was happening last night. I don't know what they're doing. But I don't necessarily think that it means, oh, I'm just sick. Oh, I'm just crazy. Oh, there's only a chemical imbalance in my head. I think that there is more to this world than what we readily know. And I don't even know if readily is the right word. I think there's more to this world than what is in your science book. I think there's more to it than that. And I think my experience of auditory hallucinations is a sign of that, as opposed to me just being sick. I think it's a sign of something more as well, especially when I hear my God voices, So I just wanted to get that story out there, because I know when I first started my channel, and I was like because when I first started my channel, I was all like, I'm gonna be a cam girl. And then I went to the mental hospital, and I got around my dad and Terrence, and they were all like, we're not going to tolerate that. So I was like, well, assholes. I was like, I can use my channel to try to form a community for the mentally ill. And I just kind of I watch so much YouTube, and a lot of the YouTube that I watch is just like entertainment type media. And so I just kind of like through like osmosis, my channel became like theirs, in that, oh, here's a vlog, and here's a shopping haul, and here's a makeup review, and that's fine. But I was like, maybe I need to get back to that thought of creating a community where we can discuss our mental illness, so we can help one another. because like I said, I'm looking for this research to where people are giving me explicit examples of their auditory hallucinations and how it works for them and what they think about them. And I'm fine, you know, I've only been researching for a bit, but I'm already like, so I started a blog on Tumblr, I think I'm saying it right. It's the same name as my YouTube channel, Theology School Dropout, and I'm gonna be posting over there. We'll see how that goes, but I am trying. Anyways, they're awake.